Welcome, everyone. This is episode 1 of our Healing Voices podcast. My name is Aaron Lehman, and I am excited to be here today with an amazing human being, soul sister that I've known for quite a while. We actually went to the same college in Indiana back in the day, 16, 18 years ago or something like that. And fast forward to a few years ago, we reconnected. And I would say divine timing makes sense to me when it comes to my connection with CASSIE SEAL. I just feel like this last few years has been such a gift to get to know you, as you've been just walking through some really powerful transformations with regard to your daily reality, like your day-to-day, workflow, and how that's shifted into where you're at now and what you're creating now. It's just been a gift and like a pleasure to see your transformation taking place, and super inspiring. I think a lot of us, based on like whatever stories we were told as children, or what we got from our society, was like, I see like bondage, I see like bondage and restriction and like, cuffs is honestly what I see. And I feel like you here in this last few years have been really just saying, nah, I've got big visions for what I want to do, and where I'm at right now and what I'm doing is not what I want to be. So I just have been amazed watching your healing journey. CASSIE also, she's an amazing craniosacral therapist and did some healing work on me last spring. I still remember it like it was yesterday because it was so powerful. We are young living business leaders together and having fun with that journey and teaching people about natural wellness products, and in our opinion, the best essential oils in the world, and so that's been a gift, as we've just like worked our way on that path as well. So that's my intro, CASSIE. I'm just thankful to have you here as a part of episode 1. I just am excited for your voice to be heard. I'm excited to just ask some questions and allow you to just share honestly as to where you're at in life, and give people a glimpse into this healing journey you've been on, because I think sometimes it could feel super lonely for a lot of us. Like it's like we're the only ones that are doing the work or in the process or struggling or doing awesome, or we're just can feel lonely. So CASSIE, tell me how are you today? What's new here in the last 10 days? What's got you excited at present?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Aaron. I just want to say I'm also really excited to be doing this with you. It's interesting when you said, it almost brought a tear to my eye when you said our voices need to be heard, because that's a lot of my journey, not just in the last 10 days, although it's been coming up quite a bit. My journey and my healing is centered around that voice that says, it doesn't matter what I do. Or I'm sorry, it doesn't matter what I say, and it doesn't matter what I think. It only matters what I do. And so, my whole life I've been telling myself that, that voice in my head has been like, people don't want to hear what you have to say. And so a lot of what's coming up, I'm teaching a couple of workshops here coming up that I'm really excited about, but that voice is there in the background. And so it's been a challenge the last few days to quiet that voice and really tune into what is my life mission here. What am I about? One of the sign I keep asking, I keep praying, show me what my purpose is. What is my purpose? And you saw when you came to my studio, there's the stop sign in front of the parking lot, in front of one of the parking spaces, and it says Inspire Love on it. And that was one of the things when I was asking, is this space where I need to be? And that was the first, I opened my eyes and there's the sign that says Inspire Love. This was maybe a few weeks ago. I was sitting in the parking lot, and I just was having a moment, and I closed my eyes and was like, what am I here to do? And I opened my eyes, and there was that sign again. So, yeah, those voices, like, they just, every time I hear them, it's that redirection and coming back to, like, I'm here to inspire love. I'm here to love on people. I'm here to inspire other people to love on other people, to love themselves. We just need a lot more love in this world.
I'm breathing that in. Breathing that in,
Yeah.
that love. So tell me, you have a workshop coming up. Like you said you have some workshops coming up. What's one that you're excited about? And I mean, I know one is about love, right? I think is what I remember seeing on Facebook. Say a little bit more about that.
The one this weekend is called Love is Medicine. And it's the idea, I first learned about this idea from David Hawkins. He's written several books, but he's got what he calls the map of consciousness. And in there, he says that when we achieve the vibration of love, when we're abiding in a place of unconditional love, that's the space where healing automatically begins. And maybe not even begins, it's where it happens. But until we can attain that vibration, maintain that vibration, it's, the way I see it, it's like we constantly, maybe we have a good day or a good experience and our vibration comes up and we're in a love mode. We love the world, we love ourselves. And so, like, we feel good, we feel great. And then, like, we got to go to work the next day, or life happens and we crash back down a little bit. But the more we can just keep returning to that vibration of love, the more we heal automatically. I've also been studying some Buddhist philosophy about unconditional love. So I'm going to be sharing some pieces of that and how that ties into how we show up to really how we love ourselves determines how we show up to love other people. And how, really at the root of it all is, do I love myself? Am I giving myself that unconditional love that we all want, right? We're all little children on the inside just wanting to be loved. So the more we can show up and do that for ourselves, the easier it flows out into the rest of the world.
So good. Could you tell us a little bit about, as you're talking about love for self? Because I think this is, a trip for a lot of us, is like, okay, what does that look like? Or, what are, as you've been on your healing journey, I mean, your whole life, right? Consciously or unconsciously, we're all on this healing journey, this healing process. But like here in the last 5, 6, 10 years, like, what have been some ways in which, and even now, so like, what have been some like things that have awakened that self-love game, or, leveled that up for you? And like, what, and currently, what are you practicing? Like, what modalities like really bless you? What fills your cup, yeah.
So I think my inspiration for this Love is Medicine workshop really has just like come into my awareness, my consciousness over the last year, maybe 2 years. But it's the idea, as I've been going through my own healing journey, that when I look back on some of those childhood traumas, and I believe we all have traumas, whether it's this big, like a lot of us think of trauma as like having to be this big thing, and it's not. It's oftentimes it's the little things that can set us back the most. And so when I say childhood traumas, I'm talking about some of those little things that have happened. But when I look back on those, and when I'm really doing the work to peel back the layers of like, what is this emotion about? What is this limiting belief about? What I realize is that in those moments, when I was hurting and not loving myself, all I really wanted was for somebody to show up and hold space and love me unconditionally, which means I love you even though you're having a hard time. I love you even though you're having this emotion. I love you even though you don't want to do what I want to do. And I mean, there's so many things to say there,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
and also like in working with my patients, ultimately it all comes down to love and um, whether we can forgive others, forgive ourselves. I have this really powerful story that's coming up. It was a patient of mine on the table, and she told me about how, I think she was like 5 years old and she was just learning to read, and her dad had her sitting on his lap, and she was really nervous to be reading for him because she wasn't very good at it. She knew she wasn't, and she really wanted her dad to approve of her, and she was stumbling over the words. They weren't coming out right. She was getting them wrong. And in that moment, he picked her up and put her down on the floor. I'm going to cry just thinking about it. And he walked out of the room. And she told me that she never sat on his lap ever again after that day. And it traumatized her I mean, she's 40, 50 years old now. And trauma has traumatized her for the rest of her life. And I tell that story often because often what I find is that, myself included, but people will often go to, I can't believe he did that to her. What an awful man. And I don't know her dad. I don't know the story, but I follow that up by saying, now imagine this, that her dad didn't learn to read until he was in the 5th grade, and he was made fun of and he was ridiculed. And in that moment, watching his daughter struggle, it was so painful for him to watch, and he blamed himself for his daughter struggling with the same thing that he struggled with. And it was so painful for him to be reminded of those experiences that he just couldn't show up for her. And I don't know about you, but that just totally erases all my barriers to showing up and wanting to love him, right? Like when we hear that story, I think, oh my God, that poor man, how awful for him too. And I think that story is so powerful because it really shows us that, you know, we're all human, we're all capable of being loved, we all have our hurts and our past, but also like the power of forgiveness. For her to really heal, like she has to be able to find a way to see her dad in that light of just, he's human, right? We have to be able to find a way to love those people who have hurt us.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's a super powerful example of just that. Yeah, it's the, you know, hurt people, you know, is that quote, you know, and it's like, sheesh, you know, sometimes we don't realize how something way back in the day is impacting how we show up now with somebody, you know, and it's like, just we get into thought patterns that we've just accepted for years, decades, that we've said like, oh yeah, that's okay. It's okay to talk like that. It's okay to speak to someone like that. And then you do it and you're like, wait, that actually is not of love. That is not holding space. It's definitely a humbling human journey.
I had something just this week where, combined with that voice that says it doesn't matter what I say or think or feel, is the voice that I'm not good enough, I'm not important enough, I'm not worthy enough. And so it was interesting. I had a dear friend, we had scheduled time to meet together on Monday this week, and he had to cancel last minute. And it was so interesting to watch my thoughts. I went right into that place where I was like, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. He has better things to do, like all of those voices. And I realized I was feeling so resentful in that moment toward him. But it wasn't until I shared with him how I was feeling, and just knowing that like he's capable of holding space, that like it wasn't about him. But the transformation for me was realizing like I was actually playing out like this old childhood trauma where, you know, I was physically hurt, and, you know, the voice was like, it doesn't matter what I want. You're going to do whatever you want anyway, and you're not important enough for me to consider your feelings. That was the message. And so, you know, I think so often we feel, for example, in this situation, we feel the resentment, but we don't take it any further. We just we stay in that vibration of resentment until something happens, like something good happens that takes us out of it for a moment. And then we just forget about it. But our body doesn't forget, like our body is still holding on to it. And so I was so grateful for my friend for showing me, like, this is an area that you still have some work to do around. So it was just a powerful experience, an example of like how we can do the work ourselves, to heal ourselves. But we have to be aware in those moments and conscious of what's really going on. Is this really about this other person, or is it about these childhood traumas that are still holding us back?
Yeah, real talk. That is so real. Yeah, love that. Thanks for sharing that. Like just the shift. Yeah. So talk a little bit about, you mentioned David Hawkins, you mentioned some of your Buddhist training. You know, what have been some of those light bulb books or light bulb teachers or authors that have really spoken to you, to your soul? You know, or yeah, is there a book that you're like, I always like to think the journey of like healing, we're all in process, right? And it's like some books, like, well, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Finding Joe, but it's all about Joseph Campbell and his, like, it's a really beautiful book, but it's, and it's pretty basic. It's like pretty basic, just about finding that warrior spirit inside of you. And like, you know, but pretty basic, like, but also so powerful, because I think we need that consistent reminder of like the basics of body, mind, spirit wellness, you know, that sometimes there's like some heavier books, like David Hawkins. I first tried to read Power versus Force and I couldn't finish it because it was so overwhelming to me. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Anyway, it was very overwhelming. Will I go back there someday? Perhaps. I probably will, but I haven't yet. And it's been a decade since I tried, since I started.
Yeah.
But anyway, what like
it may be time to go back, Aaron.
I know, maybe time. So for you, like, are there specific teachers or a book or that have really like been light bulbs for you in your healing?
Yes, there's so many. And David Hawkins is certainly on my list. He's got some powerful truth that he speaks of. And I did make it through Power versus Force. I wouldn't recommend it to somebody who's just starting out on this journey. It takes a lot to wrap your head around some of the information. And I have to say, I did it was called Truth, the Pathway to Healing. So I ordered his, he's got a book, Truth versus Falsehood is the name of it. And I ordered it and I couldn't get past the introduction because it was so over my head. Okay. So yeah. And that's probably one, like, I'm going to have to go back to maybe a decade from now and read. It's still sitting on my bookshelf. But yeah, so he's certainly on my list. I really like his Letting Go book too. It's great. Who's really speaking to me right now is Carolyn Mace as an author and teacher. And really, I haven't known much of her up until maybe about 6 months ago. I think I ended up catching on to a webinar she was teaching, and I was just amazed. I went and bought all of her books. I think the work that she's doing really aligns quite nicely with the work that I do as well. The book, so I think this is her most recent book. It's called Invisible Acts of Power, and it's all about what she did was out to her, I don't know, the people who signed up to receive her newsletter or whatever, and she wrote them an email and said, she said, I'd like you all to write me stories about a moment in your life when you performed an act of generosity or you received an act of generosity. And so she received over 1,000 letters she shared a lot of them throughout the book. I listened to the audiobook as well, but she shares these stories that are just amazing. And what she did, for those of you who are familiar with the chakra system, is that she categorized acts of generosity according to the chakra system. So like in our first chakra, it's all about safety and security and having a roof over our head, clothes on our back, food available to us. And so acts of generosity, when we're in that place of security, look like providing shelter for people who need it, donating food to the homeless, these sorts of things. And but you know, she shared how, like, if we're not secure ourselves, then we don't have those things to give to other people. And then she goes up, and like second chakra is all about money. So she shared this story that somebody was really vulnerable, and he wrote in and he said, you know, I would give $1,000 to my friend who was just like going through a rough time in life and needed it to get by for the month. He said, but I'll be damned if I'm going to give $1,000 to somebody who just wants to grow his business, because he might surpass me, like in terms of success. And I thought, wow, like the truth that, like, how many of us, maybe like not consciously, but like to admit that to ourselves, that like that's playing out in the back of our mind, like how powerful that is. I won't go through all the chakras, but she also talked third chakra is our place of like self-esteem. And so she gave this example of two models. One was like really new to the business, and it was like maybe her first day on the job, and there was this other veteran model who was the author of the letter. And the new model was really nervous, and the veteran model was just kind of watching her, and she knew she was nervous. She was like terrified to be doing this thing. And the new model looked over at her, and she's like, how do I look? Do I look okay? Am I good enough? And the veteran model, like, she's like, I knew in that moment that she wasn't asking me if she looked okay. She was asking me for approval and validation and like love, right? And she said, I chose in that moment to tell her, it's not that bad. You'll be okay. And she said, and I've regretted every moment since then, like not giving her the reassurance that she needed to go out and really shine her light. And how often do we do that for other people? If we're not secure in our own skin, do we want to like compliment other people and build them up? And it's just a really powerful look at the human mind and spirit and why we make the choices that we do, which is another reason why I love Carolyn Mace. Like, she talks all about how healing is really our need to heal, the act of healing. It's really all about the choices that we make. Like, every choice and every moment of every day either leads us closer to healing, or it walks us further away from healing. And I think that's such a powerful idea to consider. You know, what choices am I making, and how are they supporting my soul? Like, in the moment to moment, even. So powerful.
Well, and how to do that, how to courageously make those daily choices, and also then like embrace the human that we are, the human, like, because I think sometimes, I mean, the spiritual journey, I think the reason Power versus Force was so intense for me was because of like my achiever brain, my perfection brain, like, always trying to be the best, be the first kid done with the math test, be the first, the first one to run the race, finish the race, like, and I think Power versus Force made me be like, where do I need, like, I need to go be a monk somewhere. Like, I can't be a human. I can't be a human. There's too much going on here. There's too many distractions. There's too much pulling me in all these ways, So I think for me, I continue. I'm like, all right, courageously choose that healing, right, during the day.
Mhm.
But then where do I allow myself to be human? You know, that's what I'm working on in my self-love game over here is like,
Absolutely.
you know, because I, you know, I want to watch a basketball game every once in a while. It's not the most enlightening activity, or maybe it is, or if I, depending upon how I look at it, maybe I could be in, you know, it could be an enlightening experience
Mhm.
to watch my emotions during a game, right? Where I'm like, wow, I'm getting supercharged right now. Is this a big deal? Not really. It's just a couple teams playing, you know, like, and so maybe it is a good exercise to bring that awareness in. But anyway, I can be so like, I must get up and do yoga at this time. And then, you know, like just so regimented that I can't really breathe much.
I think,
How do you walk that line? Cause
yeah,
sometimes I look at, you know, your lifestyle and I'm like, holy moly, this girl is like next level with regard to like your just spiritual, intentionality, like, you know, your daily practices. One, it's just very inspiring. And two, like, but two, I'm like, um, yeah, I'm like, how does she breathe? Cause I don't know, like how could she breathe? I mean, obviously like it helps us breathe. The work helps us breathe, of course, but, that's,
I have so much to say here. So,
yeah, 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 yeah.
um, you know, and it's important to me, and I've always been, I don't know if you remember back to the college days, but I was like always in the gym. Like most people that I haven't talked to a lot since college, like that's how they remember me, as like the girl who was always working out in the gym. And that was kind of my thing. And so as I was reflecting on this interview, I remembered that and I was thinking like, you know, part of that was like I liked being that girl who could inspire others, but you know, behind the scenes is a little bit different story. You know, like sometimes the image that we see of other people, or the maybe even the pedestal that we put people up on, it's,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, behind the scenes it's not quite so pretty. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm saying it's not like, yeah, I lead a pretty spiritual life, but it's not always so pretty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
You're
have
still
days,
human. You're still human.
yeah, I'm still human. I have days where I don't get on my yoga mat more than I care to admit. I have days that I don't quite make it to meditation. And, you know, a lot of it, you know, when we talk about the choices that we make, it all comes down to our intention. I want to share this story. It was another patient that I was working with, and I believe it was her son who, going through a rough time in his life and maybe not making some of the best choices. But I think his son or his daughter needed something like diapers or something for the kid, and she didn't want to go out to help, but she's like, but the kid needs me, and so like I should do this, and so like the shoulds, right? I should or I shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what came down to it is that it didn't really matter if she chose to help or not help. What mattered was the intention, because if she chooses to help but feels resentful about it, like that's not a good choice, right? It's not going to facilitate healing for her. But if she chooses not to help with the intention of like, you know, like we talked about earlier, like this is your responsibility. You're the
Mm-hmm.
parent. You got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, then that's an invisible act of power, as Carolyn Mace would define it, like knowing when to step away and when to, like it's a fine line. It's not easy to discern, but the more intention we can bring to the choices that we make, it's everything. And that, you know, a lot of that comes from Buddhist philosophy too, is, you know, it's all about our intention.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. When you say that, it, you know, it makes me think of Thich Nhat Hanh and just the, you know, intention, and then it also makes me think of like attention, right? Just like just attentiveness, paint it like just having our eyes open in a different way, having our to feel and to connect, and you know, like with others and with ourselves and with all the things, you know, like, I mean, the earth, right? The earth, you know, for me, it's, you know, I was telling you about my dream earlier, and like my grandpas, and, you know, who have passed, and just feeling, you know, and the intention and attention, it's like drinking a glass of water, right? Versus like just
Right.
versus like a wow, what a gift.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, or eating a meal. Like when Sarah and I were on our honeymoon, we were in Bali at a silent retreat there, kind of volunteering, and we had like a meal time where we call, like, obviously like during silent meal time, but we threw out some recommendations as to how to be like, just really be attentive to the flavors and the, you know, the textures and the smells of the food, you know, and it's just like, that's just a different experience when you take 35, 40 minutes of just like eating a beautiful meal, right? Most of us are done in like maybe 6.5 minutes, 6.5 minutes, give or take, you know? So it's just,
I was gonna say, we did one of the yoga trainings that I did. We had a gal come in and she gave us each a raisin. And she's like we had to look at it and like, you know, just notice everything about the raisin, but and then we could put it in our mouth and we couldn't chew it. We had to just taste it. And it was such a power, like I think it took us 15 minutes to eat this raisin, and it was such a powerful practice of paying attention, being intentional about what you're doing. Yeah, a little raisin. It was so powerful. But also like going back when you asked like about my spiritual life and, you know, how inspiring it is. Like one of the things I was reflecting on, one of my spiritual teachers, he was talking about his own journey. He's a Buddhist monk, and he was talking about his own journey to decide whether to walk this like route as a monk. And he said, really, when it came down to it, like when I looked at my priorities in life, like the only thing that felt right was to put my spiritual life as my number one priority. And that really inspired me. I went home, I don't know if it was that night, but it was in the next few days. And I really sat with like, what is my priority in life? And can I get clear about what that is? And so for me, like I have three. I have my spiritual life, my family, and my work. And so in my meditation, I was like playing around with them, like order-wise. If I put this first, how does that feel? And what I realized is that if I put my family first, then I felt kind of resentful, right? Because I wasn't taking care of myself. It wasn't giving me the time to do my yoga and my meditation, and it wasn't giving me the time to devote to my work that I'm really passionate about. And so then if I put my work first, then I felt guilty that I wasn't giving my family everything that I needed. And I wasn't able to do those practices, the spiritual practices that really allow me to show up for the people that I serve in the way that I want to. But when I put my spiritual life first, like everything else below it just flows. And so for me, it's a constant reminder, like always coming back to like, if I'm feeling out of balance, like I got to come back to those things that help me align, which for me, it's yoga, it's meditation, it's connecting with like-spirited people who are on the healing path and passionate about living their best life and living into their full potential. Like that can bring me to a higher vibration almost instantly by engaging in those things. So it's just, again, being intentional about how you choose to spend your time.
Oh, love that. Love that. If you were to give like one, like somebody who's popped on here, what would be like, cause baby steps, right? I mean, cause I think sometimes it's like, oh, I need to enroll for a yoga training, and then I need to do, you know, like I need to start my meditation practice, and Wim Hof, I need to get into that next training he's doing. And then like it can feel a little overwhelming for people at the beginning. What would be like just a recommendation as far as, or like an idea as how would you invite somebody to just if they wanted to scoot their spiritual life up higher on the priority list, like what's one way they can just start to try that daily, you know, like,
yeah,
I feel like it could be overwhelming for some people where it's like, well, but my work, but my family is, it's like, I don't have time for that. How do I make time? You know, what would be an idea from you?
I think this is the point where we have to seek truth. And one of the things that I stress about truth is that my truth is not your truth, is not somebody else's truth. We all have our, like, there's universal truths that like apply to all of us, but there's personal truth, and we have to be able to get in a space where we can listen to our heart. Truth comes from our heart. But we have to get really good about listening to that voice, that inner wisdom, that heart self, higher self, God self, whatever you want to call it, because that's what's going to guide us to what we need in our life. For me, you know, the moment that I found yoga and I found meditation and I found, you know, cranial sacral classes and just all that was about, it was a homecoming for me. It was this feeling that I had never had in my entire life, where like I felt peace. Like my soul was like, yes, like this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been wanting you to find. And for whatever reason, like I wasn't supposed to find it until I was in my 30s, and you know, that's fine. I'm so grateful to have it now. But I do think like when we find those things that we most need in our life, like there's a feeling, like it just feels good and we know it. Like every single one of us knows what we need to do to feel better, to live better, to be better. But it's really getting clear about the type of life that we want to lead and what are those things that are going to help me get there.
Gotcha. I appreciate you saying that, because yeah, so you're really challenging anybody who's listening to this to just find your way, check in. Like, yeah, I mean, you could go check out a yoga class. I think sometimes, yeah, you could check out a yoga class. You could watch a documentary on Netflix, like a spiritual documentary on Netflix, or set up a phone call with a friend who, you know, is really locked and loaded and loves the spiritual things or whatever, you know, like,
actually, like the thing about like seeking your own truth is that I think, myself included, my habit throughout, you know, the first 35 or so years of my life, maybe even more than that, was let me go get somebody else's opinion about this. Like I'm feeling like I want to do this, but like, let me see what they think. And if they think it's a good idea too, then I'm going to do it. And that's the absolute worst thing that we can do, because the people, even people that we love and that we look up to, sometimes they lead us wrong. Like they tell us things, like they tell us their truth, but it's not, or maybe it's not even their truth. Maybe it's their childhood stories and beliefs that we hear. And so then we accept for myself, like, this is my story. Like I accepted that as my own, and like, oh yeah, that's not realistic. I can't do that. But on the inside, my heart, my soul is like screaming, no, like, do it. This is what you want. This is it. Go for it. And so for me, like the last couple of years have been learning to discern what voice is speaking right now. Is it the fear, or is it my heart that's saying, go for this, go do it? So I say, like with the Young Living business, if you were to have called me like 5-10 years ago and been like, hey, do you want to be a network marketer? I was like, are you kidding? Like, that's a terrible idea. But I was in a place where I was like able to sit with that and be like, yeah, like that kind of excites me. I think I want to do that. Like that would be a super opportunity. Let's do it.
Yeah, totally.
It takes intentionality to be able to listen to that voice, and oftentimes, like, we have to get over our fear of what other people are going to think if we do this thing, whatever it is.
Totally. So as I hear you talking about that, it's like it is really such a journey to figure out what our voice is, right? It's like as a child, we're like, mom, dad, or mom or grandma, whoever the you know, the higher ups are in our like world, that becomes like the voice of God, you know? And then we have all these other voices that come in at school, teachers, churches, communities. And our voice just slowly we start to be like, we're not sure what our voice is. And I think that's a beautiful challenge. I think because, my tendency is, and I would love your thoughts on this. My tendency is to be like, I do check in with a lot of people, more than probably more than not even probably 100% more than the average. Like I check it because when I'm walking through something, whether it's beautiful or challenging or whatever, I just love to be able to process, as part of my discernment, right? It's like I like having 10 people on the, up at the table. I get to listen to these 10 people. Okay, Adam says this. Okay, so-and-so says this. Oh, I really vibe with that. Ooh, that's, those are kind of my it's like my family, right? And I oftentimes so I appreciate that reminder. It's and I think the silent retreat did that in Bali, where it was you could process on your own, bro. You can process this on your own. You don't need to talk to 14 people right now, Yeah. So I hear you on that.
Yeah. And before I go into, what I would respond to, I have this memory. I was young and I was probably a toddler, and I have this memory of sitting on the floor. I don't even know if this really happened, but it's I feel like it's in my body. It's in my imprinted body somewhere.
Yeah.
And I have this feeling I was sitting on the floor and I was just looking at my parents, just kind of this back and forth, really? Is that how you think the world is? I don't think it's like that. But
yeah,
then we get to a certain point and that's what we have to go on. That becomes our God, our universe, our spiritual guidance is the people that we're around. And so we buy into it. But yeah, I don't recommend your example of having a table full of your closest advisors.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably one of the worst things that we do to ourselves. There has to be, it depends on how strong your inner voice is and how good you are at listening to it and how much you can listen to what other people say, but still have this wall of this is what I'm feeling and stay true to that. But I find that when we enter into truth, our own truth, there's I'm not an always or never type of person, but I think this is the case for always. There's always emotion behind it. And so what I mean by that, if you're searching, if you're praying for something, and all of a sudden a quote comes up on your Facebook feed and it moves you to tears, that's your answer. Whatever it says, your answer is in that. Anytime that we feel that strong of emotion about something or I don't know, anytime you hear something, whether somebody speaks it, you read it in a book, and all of a sudden you're you gotta stop and take it in, or you gotta share it with somebody. That's your truth. That's what you're searching for. There's the emotion is always there. Our soul speaks to us in our emotions.
So good.
Isn't it?
So, well, I mean, it resonates with me. I think that, some people say, I think there's some, there's definitely people out there that are have caution around your emotions. Your emotions could be because of all emotions. Yeah, because of all the traumas you've been through, we don't know actually what's happening. It's hard to figure out what's going on, right? Where it's but I also do think that, I mean, I'm definitely more of that in that vibe. It's yeah, I mean, if I can go to a weekend experience, right? We had the Ignite experience in Phoenix and it was or I can go to a retreat and you feel, you feel it. You feel, like emotionally, like, where home is, right? We know where that home, that sweet spot is, where we're safe and supported to be fully us, right? We're not, anyway. So I think emotions are like, for me, I definitely check in with that, but I appreciate your reminder to like think through, like, yeah, I don't, I tend to, and again, I don't know where I get it from. You have to like help me uncover this. It's like, I look at this, table of 10 or whatever, and I'm like, we're ultimately all one. It's kind of how I look at it. So it's like, I also, the I am Aaron. I have my, like, it's my way. It's me. It's me. This is me. Like, I also like. I think that's another reason that I do allow the table of advisors to sit with me, because I'm like, or books. It's not necessarily humans. It could be a book or a movie that's like, whoa, that I allow all of that to be my advisor, because it's like, I don't know, for that oneness of like, okay, evolution and healing and love, growing and expanding. So
I think at that point,
I hear
you just
you.
have to be careful who's in your circle,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Totally.
and where, I'm going to talk about this in my Love is Medicine, but where is their, whoever we're talking to, are they responding to us from their own place of fear, or are they responding to us from a place of love? And that's the whole love versus attachment line that's really thin, and learning to discern and understand where people are coming from when they give us advice. It goes back to Carolyn Mace and her invisible acts of power, the model who told the other one, like, it's not bad, it's okay, like,
Yeah.
that was coming from a place of fear, not love. But in the moment, we often don't make that distinction, and we just hear it as like, oh, I'm not good at that, whatever the story is. But I'm so blessed. I have, you included, I have this tribe of people that I have been intentional about creating and surrounding myself with. And I trust that, we call it Dharma in my Buddhist group, studying Buddha's teachings. But I have dear friends that, when I'm going through something, I'm in something, I say, can you help me Dharma this? Can you help me apply these universal teachings to what I'm feeling, so that I can get clear about, what's going on inside? And, those are people that I trust dearly, to be able to come at me from a place of unconditional love and speak truth into my soul, even if it's not what I want to hear. Sometimes it's hard truth, but I trust them. When they need to say it, they're going to say it, and it's a mutual relationship. So it ultimately just depends on who's going to sit at your table and
For sure.
who you're going to choose to listen to.
Be cautious. Be cautious. Yeah. Pay attention. Yeah, pay attention. Yeah. I love that. All right. So tell me a little bit about, so when things are not going so great in your life, stress levels are high, tension at home, whatever the case may be, what have been like go-to strategies to get back into your truth, back into your breath, back onto the earth?
For me lately, it's a combination of meditation and contemplation. But it's centered on just getting curious. Like when you want to seek truth, your own truth, like, you have to get curious. And a lot of, you've experienced a session that I do, but a lot of it is literally, I'm just constantly asking the body questions. Is it this? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it emotional? Do I need an oil for this? Do I need, like, what do I need? And so the hallmark of the work that I do is that I'm able to dialogue with people's inner wisdoms, their higher self, through the craniosacral system, which I can go into more detail if we need to. but when we get in touch with that place, the body is giving us signals, it's giving us cues. And so when we ask those questions and we tune into what we feel about the answer in those questions, like, it just literally guides me to what I need to know, what I need to uncover. And it, you know, for me, it's constantly coming back to a place of peace. Like, how can I come back to peace? Like, there's, I went to it was almost a week-long meditation festival last fall, and it was the first place where I found this really still place of peace within me, and it was so beautiful. And it was one of my first experiences where, like, you know, the whole thing with meditation is like that concentration piece and constantly tying your mind to one object. And I found it, and it was so beautiful. And so for me, when I go into meditation, I'm constantly like, yeah, this is going on over here and this is going on, where's my peace? And like, when I put myself in that place of peace, I just observe like what happens to the noise, like what happens to those things out here. And it gives me that clarity about, oh, like, I need to do that to bring peace to that situation. I need to choose this to bring peace to that situation. And it's literally, it's my guidepost. It's, you know, I also talk a lot in my workshops about our compass, like our internal compass. And I believe, I don't know if this is written in a book anywhere, but it's what's come to me through my own meditations, is that our compass is always pointed at joy. And right, we have choices every moment of every day. We make choices that either keep our compass pointed in the direction of joy, or sometimes we get a little bit off course and we got to course correct. You know, it's this constant jockeying back and forth. But for me, when my compass is pointed at joy and I'm peaceful in my mind, like, I'm aligned, body, mind, and spirit.
Game on.
Flow time, right?
That's
Flow
a whole
time.
other, yeah, exactly.
And it, you know, the thing I like about Buddhist philosophy is that if you've experienced it once, like, rejoice, like, you can experience it again. And so that's such a positive reminder for me, because that, like, it's not like I'm in that place. Like, some days I don't even get in that place, right? Like, it's a journey. But
real talk.
Just that knowing that, like, it's always there. I wear this bracelet. I got it when I was out in the fall. And it says, all I need is within me. And so it's my constant reminder that all I need is right here. It's beautiful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love the compass vision. I also love your honesty of just like, some days I don't necessarily, some days it's going this way and that way. And it's like, and then course correcting. I love that.
Yeah.
It's just real. That's just real. You know, I think I've heard, I don't know where I read it, but somewhere it talked about like a monk, a dude who's been practicing for like 30 plus years, meditation, just daily. This new practitioner comes in to this retreat and is struggling hard, like gets to the lunch break and is just like, I'm not here. Like, I'm trying to be present with, you know, just be in the moment, be here. And it's just not going. So he starts talking to this guy in front of him in the lunch line. And the guy's like, yeah, I had a rough morning too. My morning practice was horrible. And this guy's been practicing for 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that that's something we all have to keep in mind, you know, like, it's, you don't get it and then you got it all the time. You know, I think that, like, it's, I don't know, it's like a 3-pointer. I don't know. You make it like, some days you go into your meditation and it's like, boom, I'm back in the joy land. You know, I'm aligned. And other times you come out of it and you're like, okay, that was a good break, like a good breather. But
yeah.
it's not like I'm feeling like back on the joy train, you know? So I appreciate your honesty. Yep.
I was going to say, in response to that, I was on a silent meditation retreat also. Oh gosh, it's been just over a year ago. And there was this guy there who, oh my God, like beautiful. Like he would sit, like we were sitting for hours already just with guided meditation. And I would come out in the morning and he would be sitting on his cushion. And I'm like, seriously, dude, like how much can you sit? And like in between breaks, like he's sitting and I'm like total, like that total, like I'm not good enough. Like
Right.
this guy is amazing. And at the end, when we break silence and the monk who was leading it opened it up for like questions and comments, and his comment was like, this was the worst retreat I've ever been on. This guy who was like sitting the whole time, he's like, my mind was a flipping rat race and I'm so frustrated with myself. And like,
Wow.
I thought, oh, wow.
Yeah.
But how grateful I was that he was vulnerable and he just put it out there. That was a really beautiful reminder to me that like even those people that we put on the pedestal and we think they have it all together, like they don't. Like we're all human. We're all on this journey together.
Right. Seriously. Yes. So world issues, there's a lot of things going on around the world. Takes about 2 minutes on CNN. I don't do a lot of news, but I do give myself doses just so like, because it actually like inspired, like if I'm on there for an hour, I'm done. I'm like depressed and sad and apathetic. Right. But if I get on for 2 minutes, it's like, okay, go do your thing, buddy. Like there's work to do, you know, like, yeah. Is there any specific like world issues, you know, when you're 104 sitting on your cushion, sitting on your cushion in meditation, and you're like, you're thinking back on your life and you're like, are there any like world issues that you're especially, I mean, obviously like we're working on a lot of internal stuff and maybe that's what you'll work on. But the world issues, like, are there any specific world issues where you're like, when I, you know, like,
no, like
15 years from now, I'm going to be doing X, Y, and Z because this needs to shift or change, or, you know, like I think about the gal in, where's she from? Sweden or Switzerland? The beautiful, like 15-year-old who's like passionate about climate change, waking people up, you know, to like our need to change that. Anyway, I'm just curious if there's anything that like.
So I'm like you, but I'm even worse. I don't watch the news.
Okay.
And there's a piece of me that like feels a little guilty about that because I really have no idea what's going on outside my world.
Yeah.
But for me, it's not like I believe that we heal the world by healing ourselves. And, you know, I'm passionate. You know, one of the reasons that I am doing a Young Living business alongside my private practice is because I believe we all deserve to live into our full potential, whatever that is for each of us. And my passion is really helping people step out of those old stories, step out of those limiting beliefs, step out of their hurts and their trauma so that they can make a really positive, compassionate contribution to the world. Because that, I mean, it's gotta, like, transformation has to happen on the inside. It's not, like, for me, it's not about the doing out there, and it's just not about that. It starts here with ourselves, and the more I heal myself, the more I heal my family, the more I heal my community, the more I heal my country. Like, you know, it's just like a ripple effect. It just keeps going out from there. And so when I'm 104, I'm going to say, well, I did my piece, my part.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it reminds me of the Dalai Lama. I heard him speak in Austin, Texas, like 14 years ago. And he's like, somebody asked him if we'll ever experience like nuclear disarmament, right? Where all the war, well, all the countries will just disarm and just be like, let's be in peace. And he says, we will experience that after everyone is disarmed within. Like
It gives me chills.
until everyone disarms within,
Truth.
it's just, there's still going to be that, the egoic, I mean, it's just going to be the noise, the egoic noise that keeps us in greed and pain and chaos, you know? So I appreciate you sharing that, just really like being a model, healing within, inviting other people to heal within. You know, you said growing your Young Living business and growing your practice, like invites people into that self-healing journey, that evolution and that consciousness raising. And it's like, that's going to be the ripple that you can feel really excited and proud of at 104.
Yeah, no, I think people just need to know that there's another way of being. Like for me personally, like I wasn't brought up in this world. Like at Ignite, we had the gal, this Connie McDaniel, who had the frame, and how like we all put ourselves in these little boxes and believe that we can't get out of the box, and that's not true. And I'm so passionate about helping other people like start to lift the lid on their boxes and like, oh, there's more out there, you know, like let me take a look. You know, what am I capable of really? If I open this box, I crawl out of my frame, what
You're doing that. You're doing that right now, sister. And on that, I would love for you to just close with, like, if you had to had the microphone, which you do right now, if you have the microphone, and you got a room full of 10,000 of all ages, of all backgrounds, probably even some translation going on, so that people can hear what you're, understand what you're saying. What are like 2 or 3 things that you just yearn for those 10,000 to know, just about life, about themselves, about possibility, whatever comes to your.
There's so much, like, I love this question. I spent the most amount of time like looking at this question, and I think, what I want to share is an affirmation that I have been using repeatedly for almost a year now, and it's, I say yes to truth and love, which I love for me, because it's a constant reminder of where I'm going and what I'm all about, and that in the end, when it comes down to it, like all that matters is truth and love, not like my truth, universal truths. Like I'm constantly seeking truth. And, if we want to heal the world, if we really want world peace, like we got to learn to listen to our inner voice. You have to find a way to do that. And there's all sorts of resources out there, myself included, that I'm super passionate about helping people find that voice. But it's a necessity. If you want to be happy, like you have to learn to find that voice. You have to know, you have to know what joy is for you. Like otherwise you don't know where to point your compass. Like it's just doing this. And ultimately, one of the realizations that's come to me is, like, anytime I'm triggered, so whether I'm feeling blamed or I'm feeling resentful or I'm feeling angry or sad or depressed about something, it's not like, we have a tendency culturally to blame the person or the thing that's like that we think is responsible for us feeling this way. And it's like, when I peel away all those layers, all those stories, all the blame, all the hurt, like at the bottom of it is me not believing that I'm enough, or not believing that I'm worthy, not believing that I deserve something. And so when we get upset at other people, we need to start seeing that they're just holding up a mirror for us to see where we still need to heal. And when we can do that with an open heart, from a loving place of unconditional love, loving without any condition. Doesn't matter what you do, what you say, what you think, I can still hold space and love for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's where healing happens. It's so sad to me that, especially in the Western world, that medicine is all about taking a drug or having a surgery or putting a Band-Aid on a problem, telling people they have X number of months to live, or telling people there's no cure. It's not true. None of that is true. Like, none of that is true. You don't need drugs. You don't need surgery to heal. It's all here.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can access that place, like I said in the beginning, when we access that place of unconditional love, like, healing happens automatically. Like, it's not even about doing something. It's just being in that vibration of love.
Mm. 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 Yeah, it's almost like just a call to all of us to choose that vibration of love and like return to it over and over and over again. And
I say yes to truth and love.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
It constantly brings me back to that. Like, when I have those days where I'm like, I don't want to do this work. Like,
yeah.
I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I don't feel good, I am sad, I'm depressed, I'm frustrated, I'm feeling resentful. Like, I remember, like, I'm saying yes to truth and love. So if I'm going to inspire others to do it, I got to do it myself.
Yeah.
And so that affirmation keeps me coming back, keeps me aligned to where I'm going, where I'm headed, and what I want for myself and for others.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. Cassie, thanks so much for being a part of episode 1 of the of Our Healing Voices podcast. I just feel grateful to have had you join and to share some of your wisdom that you've been learning throughout your life thus far and here as of late, and just giving ideas for people to chew on. And I appreciate your humble sharing, and also your like bold sharing. It's like this, it's powerful. It's that soul courage, right? It's that soul courage. And it's also this like human realness that I think all of us are yearning for. We yearn for more of that, like just more like, yeah, I see you. Okay, go do, like I see you going after your soul's dreams. I see you actually being a real human, like that, is also on the journey and also has moments where you feel resentment come up or, like, so I just think that, having your voice here on this, on a part of this, on this interview, is huge. And I'm so proud of the work you're doing, in your community, in your own heart, with your family. And I just wish you an abundance of truth and love, no doubt.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt.
I wish the same for you. You're amazing. I'm sure this is going to be the first of many podcasts.
I know. I'm so excited.
I'm so honored to be the first.
Right?
That's such you have no idea how meaningful that is to me. And our healing voices of all things, like for me and my journey and where I'm at, and learning to speak my truth to others and love it no matter what comes out. Mm-hmm. It's huge. And I love it. And I'm so grateful you asked me to do this.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, a decade from now, when it's like this community that we know, like we recognize like that we're all on the journey and that we're not the only ones, and I think that's been coming. I think we've all been seeing that more and more here in the last 5-10 years of like, all right, I'm not the only one doing the work, like I'm not the only one reading those books. I'm not the only one doing that practice, that meditation. Like, I think it's very exciting to see and to know that like, we're going to keep growing. We're going to keep growing, and people are growing courageously every day by, next to us and across the world. And anyway, I'm just thankful.
Yeah. I mean, we're all craving meaning in our lives. But a lot of this is just the search for meaning and connection with other people. We're not alone. Not
Yeah,
alone at
definitely.
all.
Yeah, I mean, not on an island. We got a lot of us. We got a lot of us hanging out
Yeah, for
to
sure.
to enjoy and to grow with, you know?
Yeah, love
Yeah.
it.
All right. You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good day.